introduce our wonderful leader, Gwen Kirby.
All right, well, gosh, thank you all so much for being here, not just today, but for coming to Sewanee for this conference and, making it what it is. Thank you so much to Adam, who I work all year with and is so awesome. I know he's out there because he's about to read, but I can't find him. Thanks so much to Leah, who is both my boss here, but also my mentor in writing and in life. And finally, to the staff, who I love so, so, so much. Y'all are the best. Okay, yeah, woohoo, yeah. So, since I published my collection of stories, I've been engaged in the terrible process of trying to write a novel. And I thought about trying to read something from that, and I was like, that sounds terrible, that book is just such a tremendous mess. So I thought instead, kind of in the spirit of Sewanee and reading new work, I would read 2 flash pieces that I wrote this summer that I've never read before, so, oh. All right, this first one is called Mrs. Frankenstein. We fall in love with the creature slowly, a piecemeal process over long years of hard work, and each in our own way. For the creature's 15th birthday, we celebrate at home. Mr. Frankenstein, I yell down the basement steps, lobster claw oven mitts on my wide hips. Dinner's ready. Dr. Frankenstein, he says to me when he comes into the kitchen, first hanging his blood-spattered lab coat on the hook at the top of the stairs. I say I'll call him doctor when he actually defends his dissertation. The creature lumbers up the stairs behind him and moves quickly to the kitchen chair I keep covered in black trash bags for easy cleanup. Hello, handsome, I say to him, winking. And goodness, look at the creature. One blue eye, one green, his skin wax white, and body a web of silver scars like a giant palm ready to be read by gentle fingertips. And what's new with you today? Liver, the creature says. Splendid, I say, ladling peas onto their plates. I scoop pot roast from the hot pan, the onions oily. I serve my husband the tenderest pieces of beef. I serve the creature the bits from the side of the pan where the beef has burnt and gone tough. Old liver was underperforming, Mr. Frankenstein says, chewing delicately, his teeth sensitive, while the creature's massive jaw rips the beef to shreds. Such powerful mastication. I only eat the vegetables, don't know how to eat meat anymore with the bodies we've worked through together. I spear a red potato and tell Mr. Frankenstein I won't be going out grave robbing tonight, and he says, quite right, not in this cold and wet weather. I haven't been grave robbing in years. It's a young woman's work, hard on the back, and Mr. Frankenstein won't ever defend his dissertation. He hasn't been enrolled at the university since he lost his graduate funding. Mary, he wept into my bosom back when his failures were fresh. I've let us down, Mary. This isn't how I thought it would be. But I rubbed his back and promised him he hadn't failed, that I didn't care, that even if he did graduate, I didn't want him adjuncting, making no money, always exhausted, that we'd find another way, that I understood why he couldn't finish the precious thing he was trying to create. But if I'm not grave robbing tonight, I said, perhaps we could all play a game? And at this, I pull out a package from under the table and hold it out to the creature. Happy birthday, we say together. The creature does not care about birthdays. His age is not countable, as no part of him is the same age as another. But he indulges us. What is this then, he says, and rips the brown paper from the present, revealing a vintage game of Operation. The creature smiles and thanks us both. He's not a creature who laughs, though he says that he loves how much we do. Sweetheart, says Mr. Frankenstein to the creature, wiping a tear from his eye and taking the creature's hand. Here is your real present. And Mr. Frankenstein hands the creature a cat from a covered basket, a brown and black dappled stray we've been feeding for months, who the creature begged us to take in. You know we can't say no to you. We drink wine, and the creature's new liver does admirably. We play Operation, and Mr. Frankenstein loses again and again until he throws down his tweezers and accuses the Adam's apple of being rigged. As always, Mr. Frankenstein and the creature retire to their bed hours before I do. Mr. Frankenstein works best when the sun is still rising, and the creature is never far from his side, receiving his tune-ups without complaint, never asking if they are necessary, or simply a way to make Mr. Frankenstein feel young again, covered in blood and full of new ideas. When it's past midnight, I make my own way upstairs to my cool room and take off all my clothes and stand in the moonlight. The cat is curled on the bed, watching me with distrust, like she can smell the old graves on me. You're safe, I tell her, and yawn, sucking life from the quiet air. I used to hate my body, but now I love sleeping naked. Now I rest a hand on my round stomach and feel it rise and fall, amazed at how difficult it would be to recreate me, how miraculous it is that I contain a world of mess inside my seamless skin. So that's that one. And this is a story that was inspired by my sister. When she was pregnant with her first baby, she kept me insanely up to date on what fruit the fetus currently was. She was like, it's a cherry, and now it's an avocado. And I thought that was really, one, very funny and delightful, but also kind of weird how we want to make children and babies and being pregnant so cute. When it's so kind of animal and strange and just so embodied. So I don't know, I wrote a story kind of inspired by that, and it's called Jackfruit. By the time Amber knew she was pregnant, the fetus was an olive, her mouth salty for the martini she could not drink. At 13 weeks, the fetus was a peach, and Amber took the father out to dinner, watched him chew a piece of steak for too long, unwilling to spit the gristle, and she decided not to tell him after all. She packed up her apartment as her mouth watered with the acid of lemons and heartburn drove to her hometown hours away. In her old bedroom, she held her hand over her belly and dreamed of making guacamole, slicing into the avocado's crocodile skin, pulling out its hard heart. When her baby was a mango, she dreamed of tropical resorts and never speaking to her mother or father again, who were silent when they were not giving her advice, of running away with her mango to a place where they would never leave this time of tongue-scratching sweetness. Then the baby went into its phallic stage. An eggplant, a cucumber, a butternut squash, knocking her up over and over. The horror of her fertility weighed on her bladder in the night, and the fear that she would never stop multiplying, that she would swell until she split down the middle like a tomato after heavy rain. At 41 weeks, she gave birth to a jackfruit. If she delivered on time, the baby would still have been a watermelon. She could imagine that slip-sliding right out, grease-slick with placenta, not like the jackfruit whose yellow-green polyps scraped her body. At least the baby had a thick skin. On the way home, her mother drove. Amber sat beside her jackfruit, safe in its rear-facing car seat. Did she love her jackfruit? She ran her fingers over its bumpy surface. When the car braked hard, she threw her arm out, as her mother had always done, as if she could take the blow. There was something wonderful in protecting a being that had so recently ripped her apart. It made her feel that she had a well of love she'd never known about before. She hoped it was deep, fed by infinite underground reserves, but then, with a new well, you could never be quite sure. The jackfruit needed to feed every couple hours. She'd read all the new mother forums. Now that your precious jackfruit is out into the world, latch the angel onto your body and let nature take its course. She held the jackfruit to her breast, to her arms, her neck, rubbed it against herself until she was raw. She rubbed soil across its skin, sprayed it with a water bottle. God, if only she'd given birth to a watermelon, those lucky bitches, putting their watermelons in the patch and sitting in lawn chairs, nothing to do but just wait for soil and sunshine. Jackfruit needed to cling to their mothers. She saw pictures online of women who had 2, 3 attached to them at once, all the little jackfruits swelling while Amber's did not gain weight, lay limp against her. Her precious Jack was 74% water, 23% carbohydrates, 2% protein, and 1% fat. She played him Mozart to ripple the water, read him fairy tales to replenish his carbohydrates. She sang to her little Jack and rocked him in her arms, days and nights blurring together. So tired, the words coming out of her mouth blended together. Little Jack, Jack, little jackal, love of mine. And she thought more than once about simply dropping the jackfruit on the floor, this faulty jackfruit mother, watching it crack open. Did no one else know what was inside a jackfruit? Flesh like pulled chicken, pulled pork. Why had no one told her the baby would be nothing but meat? If she broke it open, would there be a real boy in there? One she could talk to, reason with? Say, "Little Jack, there you are," and hear him say, "I'm so sorry, Mother." She wept and slept, and finally one morning she awoke to find little Jack attached just below her collarbone, a thick green stalk grown from the top of the fruit, her skin hard and brown when it entered her. She wept again. Thank God, she thought. And she knew she thanked God for her jackfruit's sake, but mostly for her own, because what kind of woman failed at feeding the fruit of her flesh? She thought of what her mother would say, if her mother ever spoke her mind, if they ever said the truth to one another. What kind of woman? The kind of woman who makes a jackfruit out of lust and not love. The kind of woman you are. Thank you. And next, Adam Latham.
Thank you very much for coming. Realize this is the first time I've been working at Swan for a while, and this is the first time I'm reading with reading glasses. So be kind to me, please, as I deal with mortality. I'm reading two passages from the novel I'm working on called The Lizard Man. We're going about 40 pages in, so I got to give you a little background here, sorry. Wendy and Jeremy are a married couple of amateur cryptozoologists. Think people who hunt Bigfoot, etc. Yes, cryptids in the context of my novel are real. They fall in love back in high school investigating the lizard man after Jeremy had an encounter with it when he was 16. Now, married in their 30s and kind of getting estranged from each other, they start trying to recapture the early romance of their relationship by going on cryptid investigations together again. We're about 40 pages in, like I said. Wendy and Jeremy are camping in the Pine Barrens, home of the Jersey Devil. The brief legend of the Jersey Devil is that a woman had 12 children and vowed that if she were to have a 13th, the devil could have it. When the baby was born, goat-horned and cloven-hoofed, it grew bat wings and killed its mother and midwife and flew up the chimney to terrorize the Pine Barrens. And Wendy gets an overwhelming senses an overwhelming presence when they visit the Jersey Devil's birthplace, thinking it might be haunted. They are conducting a ghost investigation, which is a lot different than a cryptid investigation. Sorry for all that. Someone will skip ahead. These passages are all in Wendy's voice. Passage 1. We grab our backpacks loaded with equipment and push our way into the woods with our flashlights. I'm worried we won't be able to find the birthplace at night, but we take it slow, searching for the subtle signs of where we walked the day before, bent grass and occasional footprint in the sandy dirt. When we finally reach the birthplace, I cover my flashlight on the old stone foundation and crumbled remains of the chimney, half covered in vines. The place is straight up evil. Unfazed, Jeremy is just excited I'm out here with them. He walks around the foundation with the EMF meter. I'm holding steady in the low frequency range. We switch to our headlamps and set up the night vision camera on its tripod, then sit in our backcountry chairs to give the place a chance to settle. The dense forest feels oppressive, like it's closing in around us, blocking out the moonlight. An overwhelming sense of dread starts in my stomach and rises to my throat. I have to gag. Gold envelops us despite the warm night. Are you feeling this? It got chilly for sure. I check the EMF meter and it spikes to red. Holy shit. It drops back to green. We switch our headlamps to dim red. I wonder if that will be all the activity we capture. I wasn't really expecting anything anyways. There has to be some explanation, but there's no power source out here. Jeremy turns on the ghost box and the white noise issues from the speaker. Is anyone else around here with us? He stops and we listen. The white noise continues. Is anyone else here with us? Did the Jersey Devil murder you? Nothing but more white noise. We're sorry for what happened to you. Would you please speak to us? We don't mean any harm. We just want to know if you're here with us. This approach is obviously not working. I take the ghost box from him. I can't imagine what having 13 children must have been like, all those uncomfortable years pregnant. That woman had every right not to want another child, but she still shouldn't have given her newborn baby to the devil. I'm sorry, she shouldn't have. She had no right to do that. You don't give babies to the devil. So, time to provoke. It just comes out of me. If I have a baby, the devil can have it. The ghost box crackles. I'll take yours, a grotesque demon says. Jeremy smacks the ghost box from my hand and it skitters across the stones. A force knocks him off his feet. He flies back and slams down on the foundation. His body twitches. Jeremy, I scream, dropping beside him. He jerks uncontrollably, legs kicking, his body flopping, slamming against the foundation over and over, so high he catches air. I throw myself on top of him, but he bucks me off. I grab the backpack and place it under him, trying to protect the back of his head from hitting the stones. I hold the cross out on the necklace out. Get the fuck away. Get the fuck away. Jeremy stops his terrible flopping and quits jerking. He's unconscious, but breathing. Come on, baby, I say, holding him tight. Please, God, come back. His eyes open. He moans and projectile vomits all over me, but sits up. I wipe puke off my face and throw equipment in the backpack. We've got to get out of here. I help him up and put my arm around him. He's unsteady as we struggle back through the woods, getting caught in the vines and branches, snagging us. We stumble out of the woods, out to the road, and I help Jeremy into the car seat. I gun it back onto the main road and pull over at the ditch to light the dragon's blood. It smells earthy, dense, sweet incense. If anything is following us, chase it away. Please chase it away. I turn off the AC and the cab fills with smoke. I say the Lord's Prayer, driving back to Wharton State Park until I'm just repeating, deliver us from evil. Deliver us from evil. I check Jeremy's eyes at camp for any signs of concussion. What the hell do I know? I'm not a doctor. He comes around enough to help me pack. We're not spending another night in Leeds Woods. Fuck that. We stuff our sleeping bags and tent into the car, and a whippoorwill sings its name over and over at a psychotic rate. We finish packing, and I fly down the dirt road, brights illuminating the way ahead. Back on pavement, I roll down, the windows full for cool, fresh air. You can't fall asleep, baby. You have to stay awake. We cross the Delaware River, the sparkling in the moonlight, and stop at a gas station to buy 2 large cups of coffee and ice for Jeremy's head. Covered with nasty bumps now. Soon we cross another river into Maryland. The further we get away from the New Jersey, the better. Like the devil gives a damn about state lines. And I thought we were just fucking with ghosts. So it's not a good thing that they have Satan on their town now. We're going to... we're skipping forward about 2 months later. Wendy and Jeremy are struggling with the fact that being able to have a child, they can't have a child now because the devil will take it. But they agree as long as they don't have a kid, they're free and clear of any threats of the devil. They have a blast back home investigating the lizard man together again because Wendy believes in cryptids again. The relationship is the best it's ever been in years, except for in the bedroom. That's a problem. They can't have sex because Wendy's body inexplicably, in a disturbing incident, expelled her IUD. Both rightfully suspect foul play. I don't know why you're all laughing. Halloween. I can't wait to work at Scream Woods and Haunted House again, Wendy's voice. I'll miss investigating with Jeremy for a few weeks, but it's my 4th year volunteering. I wouldn't miss it for anything. Last year, I was the butcher's assistant. We wore aprons and heavy black plastic gloves slick with blood and gore. I handled the butcher's knives and electric saw as he worked on our victim, who screamed and writhed in pain, covered with two fresh slabs of pig ribs each night, probably not the most sanitary. Dismembered arms and heads hung from chains, dribbling blood behind us, all for a good cause, of course. A percentage of the proceeds supports the local animal shelter. The last Saturday of September, I arrived at Scream Woods with the other volunteers, everyone from teenagers to men in overalls and women in camo shirts, and even a few brave children. The owner, Rick, is a long bearded dude in a jean jacket and cowboy hat. He looks like Rob Zombie and is really just a giant teddy bear. His wife, Claire, is already dressed in character, a red and white green sweatshirt, knife-finger gloves, and fedora over her afro. Scream Woods and Haunted House has been named a must-see haunt and haunted attraction in a magazine 3 years in a row. One of the top 30 haunted attractions in the country. We are legit. Rob and Claire actually spend most of the year in Costa Rica. They rake in so much. People from all over the community stand in line to get cast. Veterans reprise roles if they want. I admire the fuck out of the children volunteers. They're some of the scariest actors we have. When it's my turn, Claire asks, we have a new installation. Would you like to levitate this year? She hands me a black funeral dress and grotesque zombie mask attached to it with a healthy set of white hair. I put on my costume in the women's room, admire my hideous outfit in the mirror, and hop on the flatbed with the other actors working the hayride, excited to see the new installation. A volunteer pulls the flatbed with the John Deere tractor. John instructs the actors at each stop and calls for Rob instructs the actors at each stop and calls for me at a small clearing in the pines. There's a 3 foot deep grave. Inside rest 2 harnesses connected with mesh, one for my chest, the other for my feet, and some bug spray. I'll lie down in the grave and adjust the harnesses until everything is snug. There are 2 remotes attached to the chest harness. The left one activates the green light in the fog machine. The right one lifts and lowers you. Want to give it a whirl. I turn on the green light and fog rises and furling around me. I raise myself until I'm hanging in the air 3 feet above the grave. I'm quite comfortable and let my head and arms fall back. No wonder we're rated the best haunted attraction in South Carolina. I might get a Haunted to Watch award this year with this setup. Rob smiles in the green light. Wouldn't be surprised if he did. The next weekend, I arrive before dark in costume and order fried Oreos. That's right, fried Oreos at the concession stand before I hop on the hayride, which drops me off actors before the customers, we call them victims, arrive. I nosh down on the fried Oreos, crunchy and piping hot on the outside with the gooey vanilla inside, all sprinkled with powder, sugar, delish, and get off at my stop. Putting on my zombie mask, I climb into my grave. I adjust my harnesses and turn on the green lights and fog machine to make sure everything is working properly, then raise myself to levitate in the darkness. I let my arms hang limp and close my eyes. I gnarl my fingers, blessed to be double-jointed, and imagine I'm levitating under my own power. If only my head could spin around full circle like that girl from The Exorcist. I roll my eyes back in my head to the whites there. I look to give them. They won't even see this chilling effect. I know that. But every detail helps me now in my performance. I'm a method actor. Background story. What's made me rise from this dank earth? Am I levitating under my own power, or has some dark force summoned me from the grave? I'm definitely levitating under my own power. Nobody's controlling this evil lady. Was I a witch, or cursed by an enemy to the fate of the undead? And why was I buried in funeral attire? That's a head-scratching conundrum. I'm an occultist. That's why I'm in black, out in these woods and not some cemetery, laid to rest by torchlight by my fellow conjurers, 4 women to be exact, and a dude we liked okay. I still have a few vendettas. The jerk who didn't pay me for impotency spells I cast against his boss, call me petty. A preacher onto my wily ways who calls for light to scorch my ass to dust, screw that jack off. And a sweet granny I dislike for no good reason, but mostly I shed my mortal coil to rise from the grave and terrify the living because I'm just one badass voodoo mama like that. I lower myself into the grave and wait, lying on the flat, thick plastic sheet. I've got to remember to bring a blanket next time I'm comfy in my resting place. The growl of a tractor breaks the silence. The brakes grind to a halt. My first performance of the season. Give it a minute. Showtime. Green illuminates the darkness above. Fog curling up around me. I let myself slack and rise into the air, levitating above my grave. My head and arms fall limp, fingers gnarled. I roll back my eyes and slowly turn my head, letting them take me in. And then I shriek, a scream that immediately is returning kind. Scream, you lovely people. I switched off the green lights and fog machine and levitate in the darkness as the tractor pulls away. It's after midnight when I get home, still wearing my black dress, zombie mask hanging from my side. You were amazing, Jeremy says as I walk in. You came? I wouldn't miss your first performance for anything. I drop the zombie mask and kiss him, holding his head in my hands. He pulls me in by my waist. We run our hands up and down each other's bodies. It's been so long. He tears at the back of my dress. Thank God it isn't buttons or we'd be here forever. He still manages to get the zipper stuck. The things we have to put up with. I reach around to fix it and my dress drops to the floor, but that break in action gives me a chance to get a hold of myself. We can't have sex. I haven't been to the doctor. Why replace my IUD when I can't trust it not to be expelled again? I'm sorry. We can't, honey. I know. Fuck that asshole. Agreed. We lie on the couch together and he strokes my back and rubs my neck. I'll get a vasectomy, then there won't be anything to worry about. I roll on top of him and playfully bite his neck. How soon can you schedule one? In between hay rides, I practice mindfulness in my grave. I've become quite comfortable in the dark investigating with Jeremy, but it's nice to have some time out here to myself. I race to levitate. God, I wanted him so bad last night. He was right. Screw that asshole. Keeping us from fucking when everything else is perfect between us. The more I think about it, the madder I get. Enough is enough. No more being scared. You want me, motherfucker? Here I am. Did you actually think I was going to risk birthing in an abomination, have a sweet innocent baby to let you turn into some monstrosity, or snatch it from our lives in some unspeakable death? You must be out of your goddamn mind. So we can't have children. You took that from us. Good on you. I'll never know what it's like to be a mother or hold my own baby, all because of you. You fucked with us, that's for sure. I'll give you that. And that little trick you played with my IUD, kudos there as well. But you gave me a gift. You didn't know that, did you? I'm a believer now. And Jeremy and I are closer for your bullshit. We're happier than we've ever been. Didn't think of that, did you, asshole? I turned my head and spit, then lowered myself into my grave. Be gone with you, dingbat. Thank you.
Hi. I want to say a quick thank you to the staff who worked so incredibly hard to make this happen, and also to the faculty who worked so incredibly hard to make this happen. And I'm grateful to all of you for being here. I am reading from the novel that I am in the process of writing. I wrote this last month, and it takes place, I'm going to say, in like May of this year. So it happened 2 months ago in my fictional world. I am doing this scene in part because someone who's been reading this for me told me to, and in part because I gave a craft talk last year on characterizing one character through another's gaze, and so I thought, you can see me here actually trying to practice what I preach. This is set in an archaeological camp in Belize. You're going to meet 5 people who are archaeologists. They're in their late 40s and have been working together off and on for about 30 years. There's also 2 grad students around, but they don't show up in this scene. And Paul is arriving, who is French, is arriving late from France. His flight is delayed. What I'm reading here is a little snippet in the morning before they go out into the jungle to the archaeological site where they're excavating a Maya ruin. And then we'll see them again in the afternoon when they come back from the site. Okay. There's an art to drinking coffee in a hammock, and Patricia and Caroline long ago mastered it. No one else returned with their coffee from the dining hall. Some people like to drink it there while they wait for breakfast to be called. She's glad to have a few moments alone with Patricia, though it's less satisfying than usual because their hammocks are too far apart to talk quietly. Again, she's wrestling with a silly, left-out feeling. There are 4 women in the cabana there, sharing Patricia in the room at the far end, the 2 graduate students in the middle, then Caroline, but the columns on the front porch can only hold 3 hammocks. So Antonio insisted Caroline take the spot in front of his door. He didn't need it. Hammocks make him seasick. Things like this are a big deal in camp, everybody guarding their small territories. She's grateful he ceded her part of his, but she doesn't like being in front of someone else's door, and she doesn't like someone else being in front of hers. It would have been a ridiculously immature use of her power to make one of the grad students go over with the boys. In the bare branch tree next to the cabana across from theirs, there are 3 toucans. Suddenly 3 toucans? Or did she just not notice them there? Patricia, look, she shouts. Do you see them? Yes, how cool. I think your manifestation went awry. No way, sister, I'm still focused on the jaguar. I'm manifesting like crazy. It's going to happen. These guys are here for you. Hello, toucans, Caroline calls out softly. Are you here for me? In front of Patricia, she doesn't hide her silly habit of conversing with objects and animals. I can't believe I didn't bring binoculars. I said I'd get some after last time, and I completely forgot, and now I am filled with regret. I'm so mad at myself. Maybe it's better this way. Really? How? I don't know. I can't think of anything. Caroline laughs. Good effort, though. Way to hustle. She makes a frustrated sound. They're too far away to see their colors. You're too far away from me, Patricia says. I don't like it. I know. I wonder what time Paul gets here. I guess he won't make it into the field today. Nope. Too bad. He likes to open the season. Caroline doesn't say anything. She swings into a sitting position a little too abruptly, and yet she doesn't spill any coffee. That's mastery. The toucans lift off as if she's dismissed them. They really do look like flying bananas. She has come so far from the self-doubt that made a murky, treacherous landscape of her psyche when she was young that she fools herself into thinking she is solid all the way down. But there are places where she has only built bridges, and a plank can break, a foot can slip. Paul is a high wind. Patricia, yes, Caroline, I'm nervous. Of course you are, because I'm a big baby, because it's Paul. They arrive back in camp about 4. They park the trucks and say goodbye to the workers. Muchas gracias, hasta lunes. It's going to be both letdown and relief to have tomorrow off after today's start. According to Patricia, who was the last to check the weather before they leapt off the world, today will be the worst of the heat this week. They trudge into camp, dirty and weary and swampy with sweat, trying to recall when the camp director said other people were arriving and how many there would be. I hope she doesn't put anyone in the cabana across from us, Patricia says. I don't want people looking at me on my porch. Really? That's never bothered you before, says Caroline. I'm the one who's weird about shit. Okay, full disclosure, if you promise not to judge. Patricia gives them a dramatic pause. Last night, when I woke up in the middle of the night, I peed outside in the corner over there instead of walking all the way to the latrine. Caroline feigns shock. Patricia! It was great, she says. I want to keep doing it. I went right back to sleep. If someone moves in there, Neto says, you have to frighten them out of your territory. You've already marked it, so that's a start, Antonio says. But I haven't peed on them like a spider monkey. You can't pee on them, Caroline says, until they're here. And then she sees Paul. He's in the smoker's circle. He's looking at something on the other side of camp. She'd lay odds it's a bird, and hasn't seen them yet. If love at first sight is fireworks and lightning, electricity and chemistry, where are the metaphors for this? He is in motion, of course, tapping heel toe with one sneakered foot. One hand moves because he's vaping. The other hand is on his head. She knows he reached up to push back his curls, the habit so ingrained their absence doesn't interrupt it. He always arrives in camp with short hair, businessman hair, she called it once, and they've used the term ever since. By the time they leave, his curls will be headed back toward unruly. She never grows tired of this slow undomestication, like watching the jungle creep back. The first season he hadn't known to cut his hair, and by the end he'd been sweating under a wild and glorious poof. Only vanity, it seemed, kept him from shaving it off in the jungle. With his hair so short, she can see the tender skin behind his ear, which she has kissed down to the still sharp line of his jaw. Paul, Antonio calls, and he turns and waves. He is smiling. He is giving himself over entirely to his smile. His crooked French teeth, his deep laugh lines. He looks older and exactly like himself. No change to his lean torso, the long muscles of his thighs. Slender as he is, she remembers the skin of his stomach as terribly soft. His stomach, his inner thighs, the side of his neck. She so briefly had the right to touch him. The sun glints silver in his hair. On screen, she hasn't noticed the gray. He's wearing a blue t-shirt that brightens his eyes, and she would love to know if he did that on purpose. The first thing she says when they reach him is, "You're smoking." He winces. "Pandemic," he says. "I'm going to quit again." I'm not doing his French accent, but he is French. Okay. He returns the vape pen to his pocket as if that quitting starts now. She takes an involuntary step closer. Years ago, she learned to perform the French double kiss, but he doesn't make the corresponding move. In fact, he flinches away. He says, "We're not doing that." She blanches. He turns to Neto and smiles. "We stopped during the pandemic, a very big deal for French people. There were many articles. People have started again, of course. Are you shaking hands?" Neto says, with a hint of criticism, "I do whatever. I follow the other person's lead." Caroline is stunned by hurt like a very small child. She can't think what to do, and there goes her goddamn blush. Paul shakes Neto's hand and then follows suit with the others, though of course Patricia, deprived of a hug, permits herself to squeeze his arm. This is good. This is fine. He set the terms. Now she knows, and anxious wondering is over. She'll feel better now. Her footing will stabilize. She'll fit the lid back on and lock it tight, and other metaphors. When his attention swings back to her, she feels the reluctance in the movement, like rust. She says cheerily, "Let's shake hands too then. I don't want to be left out." She could point out that handshaking probably isn't any better in terms of virus spread unless they all go immediately to wash. But she knows perfectly well what's going on here, and she knows too how to pretend that she doesn't. She holds out her hand, and when he takes it, she wills herself not to feel, or at least not to allow anything she feels to show. She can't do anything about the blush, but they've all seen it many times at this point. They all know how much it embarrasses her, so they do her the courtesy of pretending not to see. No one even teases her about it unless her mood is very, very relaxed. Here he is, Paul, in person. He has new calluses on his fingertips. During the pandemic, he taught himself to play guitar. Later, after Paul's gotten settled and the rest of them have showered, but before dinner, they cluster on their two porches. The grad students disappear into their hammocks with books. They might need a break from listening to the rest of them talk. After 30 years together, the 5 of them all but speak their own language. The constant effort of confusion and interpretation and polite attention to elders must get tiring. Caroline forces herself to climb in her hammock as she normally would, despite its location and territory so close to Paul's. But she doesn't feel comfortable lying down and letting it enfold her. She sits in it like a swing. He hasn't put his hammock up yet. He and Antonio and Neto all sit in plastic chairs, and after a while, Patricia gives up on being in her own faraway hammock and comes over to chat. Caroline, who has been working hard at appearing not to work at all, is so relieved she wants to clutch her to her chest. Patricia, she says, tell Paul how you're going to frighten away any new neighbors. Oh yes, Patricia says, I'm going to be a spider monkey. I'm going to go up on the roof of their cabana, and I'm going to grab hold of the nearest branch like this. She grips the fabric of Caroline's hammock, and suddenly she's a monkey, bouncing and shaking and screeching at the top of her lungs. The sight is so funny, possibly the funniest thing Caroline has ever seen. One of the many delightful aspects of Patricia's character is her utter lack of embarrassment, her commitment to a bit. She's fearless. If she loves you, she'll go with you anywhere. This is how she ended up with Renee in Santa Fe. Then I'm going to pee on them, Patricia says, from the roof. That's why I have to be on the roof. When Paul laughs this hard, he cries. I missed you, Patricia, he says, when he gets hold of himself. He wipes his eyes, and Caroline feels that painful little swoop in her chest, something trapped inside. I missed you too, Patricia says. I missed you all. Caroline doesn't mean to make eye contact with Paul. No, part of her does mean to, and that part slips her control. He's the one who looks away. Thank you.